Service management should never have been a concept restricted to IT. Service management, at its core, works with fundamentals that can be applied to any service. That's where it's very important that enterprise service management discussions are created at CEO level, because that's where CEO would be able to bring the departments together and say, this is what we are looking for. How we make sure that organization knowledge, organization-wide data is usable for next steps of evolution for the organization. And that's where the actual value of enterprise service management comes in. 30 to 50% productivity gain is usually communicated as, I would say, end objective for any ESM platform implementation. How we make sure that human and AI work in tandem. The process for onboarding AI and the process for onboarding a human are very different.
Hello and welcome to the Enterprise Tech Talk podcast. I'm your host, Saumitra Kalikar. Now, for many years, the practice of service management has largely been confined to IT functions within the enterprises. But now this is shifting. We are seeing the principles of service management are being increasingly extended to other corporate functions such as HR and finance and so on. And in many ways, that is redefining how enterprises deliver all their internal services and operate at scale. This is the focus of today's conversation, the rise of enterprise service management. And to help me unpack this interesting topic, I'm joined today by Rakesh Kumar. Rakesh is the head of advisory at InMorphis. Rakesh has deep experience in enterprise service management, implementation, and transformation. So, Rakesh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Saumitra. It's a pleasure to be here and speak with you. Obviously, the topic is very interesting, and we look forward to have it now much unpackaged way, I would say, so that everyone understands it in a simplified manner rather than the way industry has complicated it many times. So obviously looking forward to this discussion, which is going to be largely focused on how we perceive enterprise service management, how IT service management has evolved into enterprise service management, and what it actually means for the AI world. If you want to use enterprise service management 5 years down the line, what it should actually mean.
Exactly. These are some of the important points I'm definitely interested to unpack with you, Rakesh. But before we get started, so you have deep, long experience in this industry, service management industry, as you said, right from IT service management now emerging evolving into enterprise service management. So maybe to get started, would you provide a brief overview of your journey into this industry and how you have seen this industry evolve over the years?
Of course. Overall, 20 plus years, nearly 21 years in this industry, I've seen the journey growing from very focused IT service management, which was primarily limited to incident, problem, and change for infrastructure services. I've seen it growing from there to a phase where it transformed into a outsourcer integrator, service management as an outsourcee or outsourcer integrator. Now that's where the concept of service integration and management popped in, and it became a huge buzzword 3-4 years ago. It's still a good concept to have, but I think as it has evolved, now enterprises are not just looking at service management from IT perspective. They have started seeing as it has one large platform-based service management that integrates all the services that business is looking for or business is actually working with. Now, what it essentially meant for me in my journey was when I started as data center operative, then I moved to managing a data center, and then from other in my different roles, I moved to process consulting, and then finally in my last 8-9 years, or in fact 9 years, I've been working in setting up practices for service management related capabilities. So in that sense, I've been able to uh, work with skills, work with the industry changes, which are not confined to uh, service management related, I would say, terms. Initially, it started with the typical ITL that we talk about. It's just the core of service management per se. When it started way back when I started my journey in process consulting or service management consulting, it was ITL V2 and V3. Uh, since then, uh, the perception of people on ITL has changed. Perception of businesses on ITL has changed. There was a time where people stopped believing in something getting delivered through ITL because they thought it's too much governance and too much uh, process. But the ITL evolved, and obviously the thought process of businesses also evolved. And with that, when you're creating capabilities in the organizations, you have to develop on new offerings, new frameworks, new way of working with domains. So banking would have a different mindset. Hospitality would have a different mindset. So all these areas need very specific way of looking into service management. You cannot just have one silver bullet for all. So both the era of I would say ITL still is alive. ITL is still alive. I'm not saying it's dead, but post the era of where ITL was the primary go-to framework, service integration management has come in after that. Now, once the outsourcers are integrated, people still feel that there's a need of common platform to bring all the services together, and that's where enterprise service management has picked up as one of the key talking topics, and or I would say a discipline that every organization or every big business looks for.
So no, that's a good kind of context and history to service management. Service management as a concept is well understood within the IT, right? Because it's there for a long time. If we talk to CIOs will get it. But as ESM is now crossing the boundaries, right? Getting into the wider business operations, how do you articulate ESM as a concept to non-IT executives?
For me, service management or IT service management should have never been, or service management should never have been a concept restricted to IT. Service management, at its core, works with fundamentals that can be applied to any service, for that matter, be it HR, be it finance, be it legal, anything. Now, when we speak with any of the customers who have experienced IT service management but are still thinking of moving into enterprise service management, I think the key talking point becomes you have everything that is needed as building blocks in terms of IT service management. Why not evolve it to different departments and unify them as a common platform or common organization framework for your services to run? Now, one of the key benefits that you have to talk about is that, first of all, there would be normalization of data in huge sense. Same people data gets utilized by finance, HR, and IT. But when we are segregated them, we are working with them in silos separately. We are just creating 3 data banks, and in the inconsistency is everywhere. When we do that, when we do enterprise service management way of working, or when we adopt enterprise service management way of working, we are actually creating a common data pool for all the services to utilize. The updates become very consistent. The usage of data is I think more reliable. And when we talk about AI in that context, I think rather than just ITSM, the data residing in ITSM, when compared to data residing as an ESM platform, as in an ESM platform, makes more sense to create your own LLM and work through AI models. Your knowledge that you create for, let's say, IT, in IT service management system, when gets married to financial management and HR management, it creates a huge value. How the personas behave, because at the end of the day, IT service be it IT service management, be it financial management, be it HR management, it is addressing the personas of employees, right? And there should not be three different ways of working through those personas in three different departments. It actually elevates the employee experience to a great extent if they get a similar experience across the services, be it IT, be it HR, be it finance. And enterprise service management quite does the same, right? It brings you on the same platform, the same set of services, and when you start talking in the same way, the employee thinks, okay, this is the organization I'm working for. There are no different teams. I'm working for the organization. There's a common way of interacting for services, common way for onboarding, offboarding, getting my laptop done, getting my pay slips generated if there is some error, correcting some financial things, everything through same portal, same way of interaction. So when the CXOs discuss this with us, it's primarily this value proposition we give. Now, another important aspect is, Saumitra, which I think is very important to touch here, is that CIO, CHRO, and CFO are three different entities. As an IT service management, I would say, owner, which would be a CIO, it's very difficult for me to talk to CHRO or CFO and say, take my standards on, take my way of working on. That's where it's very important that enterprise service management discussions are created at CEO level, because that's where CEO would be able to bring the departments together and say, this is what we are looking for. So if as a strategy, I would like to talk to CIO first, but I would like to CEO for enterprise service management, rather than just going to being a proponent of IT service management, being a proponent of ESM. I have to go one level up, and that's where I'll be able to convey the value better.
Yeah. That's an important, really good point you mentioned. And so, look, and when you talk to those CIO peers, like the CFO or others, how do you? I mean, you need to sell the need, the case for enterprise service management to them at the end of the day, right? They need to be convinced. So, what are the problems in their traditional operating models that you typically see and potentially bring on the table for discussion? That's one thing. And second thing is, at the end of the day, to create a quantifiable business case, a quantifiable benefits to the organization, do you see what is the primary kind of argument or driver for this kind of investments? Is it mainly employee experience, or also you also talk about productivity and efficiency, those kind of other benefits as well?
Right. So coming to the first question first, the value that we see in the enterprise service management is huge when we go beyond the context of traditional service model. Right? The traditional service model is you have a customer, which is internal for, let's say, HR, and you have a set of capabilities, and you utilize the set of capabilities to create services or create offerings or create work to be delivered to your end customers. Now, when the IT and when the technology is converging, or let's say IT service management is converging to enterprise service management, the employee experience becomes core to it. A person who's holding a mobile phone would not like to open 3 different apps for HR, finance, and IT if they want to log a request. So you're right. Employee experience is one of the key selling points for any enterprise service management discussion. But if you look at it strategically, which is, I think this is more tactical in nature when you talk about employee experience. Employee experience is a core to everything that every department does. But from enterprise service management perspective, this becomes practical. What strategic is how we make sure that organization knowledge, organization-wide data is usable for next steps of evolution for the organization. And that's where the actual value of enterprise service management comes in. Finance data, HR data, and IT data, when combined together, they create a tremendous value. Any automation, any artificial intelligence built on top of that data would actually propel the organization to a very, in a very fast-paced manner to next level. So that's the point we try to convey to the CXOs, that you are creating a stepping stone for your next level of evolution by moving to enterprise service management. And once that is set in the heads of CXOs, they obviously become interested. Because as I said, right, employee experience is key, but it is very tactical in nature. Everyone talks about employee experience.
So what kind of use cases do you typically highlight at which maybe CEO or CXOs have not thought of so far, but just bringing that data together, right? The services together. As you said, you can innovate into a next stage for your organization. So what are those additional use cases those would be enabled?
So the use case I'll talk about is very basic, but it's very important, right? So let's say an employee is getting onboarded, right? Now the journey of an employee in an organization starts with an HR system. So the HR system would interview, there would get scheduled, there would be a way interviews conducted, scoring, the selection. This process usually sits in a system which is handled by a talent acquisition team. Now, once the person is selected, the next team takes over is the generation of appointment letters and onboarding the once the offer is accepted, onboarding the employee onto the system. That's usually a different kind of system. So talent acquisition system is separate. Managing the employee life cycle in an organization is separate. And the third system that gets triggered is the financial system. So the same employee is passing through 3 different systems, which is the acquisition, HR for onboarding, and then finance. Now, everywhere in the business use cases I've seen, none of the systems is isolated from IT. So HR also wants the user to be created in the systems, in the for the employee to work with, email IDs to be created that gets triggered at HR. Now, once the employee is onboarded, there would be a request for laptop, there would be a request for connectivity. There is also a facilities management part of it, right, which comes in between, where you allocate seats to the employee, the area to work. If there is a need for desktop, the desktop is created or provisioned for that particular employee. And obviously, once this provisioning has happened, employee has to be introduced to a system where he can report issues. He can log something that has gone wrong with HR or gone wrong with the finance, maybe pay slips, offer amount, whatever. And then obviously IT. IT is where my laptop is not working. Now, conventionally, we've been talking about only IT, that something goes wrong, log a request, log an incident in IT. But now if you look at it, right, the journey, the whole employee when enters the organization until, let's say, 2 years down the line working, if he's interfacing with the same system, everything he's inputting or everything he's creating is getting logged into the same system in case of ESM. It's not getting logged into multiple systems. Now, this knowledge can be utilized to create SOPs, which can be converted to bots. This knowledge can be utilized to create better processes, improve better processes, shortening them. Why to go through this whole cycle? When automation can happen, right? This whole cycle takes 5 days. Unless I have a comprehensive view of the whole process, it's very difficult for me to reduce it from 5 days to 2 days or 3 days or 1 day. So I obviously get this perfect view when I start doing it in an ESM way. The important aspect we have to understand is that when we talk about ESM as a concept, it can never be understood or practically implied without the concept of platform. Okay, so we'll not be able to do enterprise service management till we have a platform that marries everything together, right? So, and eventually, when we see this whole life cycle getting managed through single platform, the platform itself becomes a source of data for our next level of work.
Yeah. So building on that, because that was my next question anyway, I think it's time to maybe unpack the concept about ESM as a platform a bit. What kind of capabilities, let's say self-service portal or service catalog or some data management capabilities, etc. What are those few important common capabilities that ESM as a platform offers, which actually brings everything together?
Right. So when we say ESM as a platform, we essentially talk about vendors, right? So who's bringing that platform up? So each platform, essentially, be it ServiceNow, be it BMC, be it any other platform, right? There's so many players in the market who bring those platform capabilities. I think the essential capabilities remain at the core of platform, which means how is there a data model in the platform that can ingest the data from various sources and make sense out of it? Can it help you create workflows that can span across departments, removing those silos? And third being, can it provide a single pane of glass view for each and every service that the employee is expecting, which is essentially the employee experience part of it? Now, obviously, business analytics has improved over a period of time, and there is huge, I would say, huge automation in the way we used to work 10 years ago and now. But with single platform holding whole of information, the CIOs, the CHROs and CFOs and then CEOs, they'll be able to get a very clear view of the bottlenecks in the system and the issues which need priority resolving. This view should be a capability of the platform. So if I just narrow it down, it should be a common employee experience, which is through portal, then a very sound and robust data model that can actually ingest data from various sources and make them into databases which are usable by the whole platform itself. And last but not the least, analytics capability on top of it, which can bring sensible information to the people who are looking to improve the overall system and platform. I think these three core things make a good ESM platform. Now, again, workflow, creating a workflow through various departments or various teams in the organization, it's one of the core things, but it's a capability that can be enabled in various different platforms. What makes it enterprise is the core data management capability underlying.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's good. So let's talk about some of the practical challenges which potential, and I want to get your views on how you, based on your experience again, how you actually encountered those and then try to mitigate those, right? So the practical challenge would be, yes, ESM is really a good concept, but most of the organizations would historically have invested into siloed technologies. And typically, IT would have implemented in IT service management platform, ServiceNow, Remedy, as you said, or whichever. Finance would have their own finance systems, HR will have their own HR systems, etc. So with those investments, how do you, if this is a new platform you want to establish as cross corporate functions, how do you go about it in terms of scaling the transition to a centralized platform?
Right. I think, well, let's talk about the challenges first. The key challenges we usually come across is, and I think it's one of the biggest, right? No matter whatever technology you feel like adopting in an organization, the same challenges comes. As the same challenges come, it is people working in silos and organizations failing to break those silos. So even though it's more a philosophical thing, but I would say it is the biggest challenge, practical challenge as well. In my past experience, I've gone to organizations where IT service management, when goes to HR for data, or let's say they want to integrate the two systems, the very first thing comes as a question is, how are you going to use my data? What are you going to do with my data? And what is it in for me? What is in it for me? Right? While this mindset is very siloed, right? It doesn't talk about how the enterprise is going to benefit from clubbing the whole things. But this mindset is a big problem in few of the biggest of organizations, I would say. So obviously, a good organization change management strategy has to be very much implied or applied whenever we're doing an ESM initiative. As I said, it cannot just be CIO, CHR, or CFO job. It has to be a CEO initiative, which gets pushed across the departments, and that's where I think top-down approach can bring in a very smooth transition. Now, second is, which is more technical in nature, the challenge which is technical in nature, the way data is maintained in each of the organization, in each of the departments. Some of them are working with tools, some of them are working with Excel sheets, some of them are working with workflows, automation. Now, as a person who goes in and tries to implement enterprise service management, the starting or the baseline is very staggered. Right? It's somewhere it's very mature, somewhere it's very immature. So I think the challenge first comes in getting that you have to consult the organizations. You have to work with them to come to a common data set, which or common or a workflow which can utilize that data in whatever form it is and evolve and mature it over a period of time, so that at least by 6 months or so, everyone comes to the same level and they start interfacing and interacting in a much seamless way. So it cannot be a journey of 2 months transition or 3 months transition. Obviously, if the data lying in various departments is of variety, is a different way it has been captured, time taken is more. But once it is done, I think the result is everyone to see, output is everyone to see that everything is becoming very smooth. Now, the selling proposition also comes from the same fact, Saumitra, right? If I'm able to convince the CEO that you would have a better visibility into your operations, bottlenecks, any interventions that you need to make through CHRO, CEO, CXO, any CXO, any regulatory compliance that needs to be applied. I think this is an important factor we did not discuss, right? ESM as a whole, as a platform, brings in better compliances because in a way, the data inconsistencies are removed once we have that core data model being set into ESM, and the data remains the same, whether utilized by all the departments. So a huge push to compliance is provided by enterprise service management, and that helps as a big selling point for industries like BFSI. And for the telecom as well. Telecom and BFSI are very heavy on compliance. For that matter, every domain is, right? Even life sciences and healthcare is also very keen on compliances. So this becomes a very good selling point for them. And if we are able to convey that message clearly, I think it becomes easy for organizations to adopt it, accept it, rather than adopt it.
I think compliance is a really good point that you mentioned. So I know based on my personal experience in Australia, most of the financial industry companies they have regulatory obligation for third-party risk management, for example, and few other
Yeah.
compliance obligations, which requires those specific compliance controls, risk controls objectives well defined, monitored, tracked, etc. And bringing all the data together under same platform really helps. And, so compliance could be one key driver. Beside compliance, I do think at the end of the day, CEO and that level, they would definitely like to understand some quantifiable commercial benefits in terms of how the productivity is getting is improving, or how the are you simplifying technology landscape, right? Is the cost of running operations is also going down by
Yeah.
consolidating, let's say, 3 4 systems, one for finance, one for HR, one for others, onto one single platform. So that's those
It
commercial
is a,
benefits as the compliance benefits could be a good case
look,
investment.
very true. I think commercial benefits is something that is obviously to be talked about in such a discussion. 30 to 50% productivity gain is usually communicated as, I would say, end objective for any ESM platform implementation. Besides the license cost, right? The
Mm,
product
mm,
that is bought by various departments,
mm,
and for some licenses where um, employee is counted as a license,
mm,
it gets multiplied when you have multiple systems, right? So
mm,
if HR system has an employee-based licensing, similarly IT has employee-based licensing. Obviously, employee is getting billed twice.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that optimization, once we study and do a license analysis for any organization in terms of how
Yeah.
the licenses are spread across various departments, a single license strategy management, license management
Mm,
is applied through ESM. So let's assume that ServiceNow is a platform that is getting utilized for enterprise service management. There is a service for GRC, governance, risk and compliance. There is HR
mm,
services. There's IT services, and there's legal services. These
mm,
four services are working in tandem in an organization. Uh, ServiceNow provides huge opportunity to optimize those licenses
mm,
compared to one that you would do, or a situation where you would have multiple licenses elsewhere. So cost benefits can directly be foreseen through licensing itself.
mm,
Then another very important aspect is um, a skill set and talent needed to manage multiple platforms.
mm, mm,
And when you combine the platforms in single platform, obviously
mm,
implementation setup would have some specialized people, but maintenance of the platform over a period of
mm,
time, if it's a single
mm,
ESM platform, the cost gets reduced drastically.
yeah,
So you do not need specialized developers for HR system that
mm,
is developed in, say, XYZ
yeah,
language. You do not
yeah,
require a separate expert
yeah,
for some
yes,
legal and
absolutely.
compliance.
Yeah. Let's move to the next section, which I wanted to unpack with you, which was around the implications on operating model, enterprise operating model, right? Because uh, service management historically, as we discussed, it has been confined to IT, which means most of the roles, let's say head of service management or whatever role you define, head of process, service management processes, etc. Those roles, the roles were sitting within IT. The platform ownership would sit in IT, etc. But now, once you start talking about bringing all the corporate functions under one umbrella of
Yeah.
ESM, what are the implications on operating model in terms of even of the overall ownership of that ESM as governance framework, process framework, and a platform?
Right. It's a very good question. I think that's something. I mean, I co-authored a book in 2015 on service integration and management. It was making SIAM work, and it precisely talked about that topic in very detail. And even though it started as a service integration management ideology or thought, but it very much applied to enterprise service management scenarios. What it essentially talks about is that if an organization has multiple departments or multiple suppliers. So let's start calling each of these departments as suppliers. Okay, for one few of them would be internal suppliers, supplier of services. So HR is the internal supplier of services. Similarly, finance is an internal supplier of services. IT can be an external supplier of services. Right now, what we talk then is not a service management office. So service management office is associated with IT service management, which is again very unfortunate, I would say, because it does not say IT service management office. It says service management office, and anything offered as service can be governed through the same principles of service management operating model. But the way to extend it is we create an integrated service management office. An integrated service management office would essentially have internal and external suppliers managed through a common team, a common governance team. Now, this integrated service management office would have people working with finance, people working with when I say people working with managing the workflows in those particular departments. So in a conventional service management office, IT service management office, you would have an incident manager, right? So the role of incident manager is to own the overall incident management process. Similarly, for HR systems, you would need someone who understands the workflow, the overall process, and manages and controls that process for the organization. We would have that person as integrated service management office member, right? And any going forward, in a scenario where we have a common platform, each of these services get impacted by a change done by any supplier, right? So let's say IT person does some change into enterprise service management system purely with his intent to change something in IT, but essentially it is going to touch systems which are HR, finance, right? So a proper change control, change management needs to happen across the board. Similarly, anything that is a bottleneck, anything that is improved, upgrades, updates, making sure the process is adopted across the people. The OCM also sits in that office, integrated service management office. The data management layer, which is essentially ignored in conventional service management offices, but data management or data, I would say, controller has to be a part of that service management office, integrated service management office. And this combined as a body should be able to, I think, should be the core governing body of the organization, because then the business functions are very much converged to enterprise service management.
And you talked about chain management a bit, and I wanted to unpack that briefly, and then I want to shift our focus to AI. But closing this particular question around changing cultural resistance, typically, because this becomes a big change management program as well. If you're doing a full-on ESM transformation, right? You're touching so many corporate functions and then so many roles under each corporate function. So how do you, what are in your experience, what challenges you have faced, and how do you address this soft cultural issues?
I think the cultural issue is more the way, I think the thought process of a technology-driven department is very different from a non-technology-driven department, right? They believe in there are two ways, right? One is data-based decision-making. The other is intuition-based decision-making. Now, typically, the technology-enabled departments are very data-based in terms of decision-making, while very conventional or traditional departments are very intuition-based decision-making. I mean, they definitely use data, but on top of it, they'll prefer applying intuition to it. Their understanding and learning. Now that becomes a bit of challenge to convince them that you start making data as your decision. Whatever comes from system, use that as there are now analytics has improved a lot, so it can help you decide even, right? It's just not just something that is leaving everything to you. It can help give you options in terms of decisions, and you can just pick which one is best for you. Now, this is primary challenge, right? To make sure that the mindset of the people is more data driven, if they have worked in conventional non-data driven systems. The second challenge has become people who have worked so many years in a particular system, and it is very typical to financial systems. Same system works for 10, 15 years, and people are just working in the same UI, same way of working, same set of inputs, same set of outputs. Convincing them for a better UI is a very big challenge. Now, the best way to do is giving them demos, giving them how closely it maps to your real world applications like WhatsApp or something which they are using outside of their work, right? So the closer we are to their day-to-day usage of applications, the easier it becomes for us to convince people to adopt something new. I think that's a strategy which most of the OCM or OCM initiatives do not adopt, but the idea is to make the change as close to something these people are using outside of the work. If you're not able to closely do it to what they're doing is today, right? If they're doing a form-based system, you want to bring an intuitive or responsive system, make it close to something they're using outside the work. It could be social media, WhatsApp, or something like that. Another very important aspect of OCM and change is that it cannot start when you start the program. It has to start at least 6 months before the program starts. So when the program starts, the immediate need comes from implementers and deployers like us is provide us data, provide us integrations, provide us APIs, provide us how the system is looking today. That reluctance, when it works after program starts, it becomes a friction point between the team that is implementing it and the people who are working on the ground. This should be eliminated before the program team comes on the ground. And this could be done easily. I've seen in a very good example, one of the large life sciences customers I was working with, when we landed on the ground to deploy the platform, we saw posters everywhere. And the poster said, "Don't be a gator brain." So it was not about we implementing a platform or they introducing a new platform. It's about adopting a change that is coming for you. So be flexible with what the team on the ground is going to bring. So I think that kind of strategy really works when you are prepping the people on the ground to be helpful to people who are coming for change. Obviously, convincing needs to happen that everything is happening for your good. There is a lot of pullback when it comes to insecurities of people. People feel that this platform is going to take the job away, or it is going to make them redundant. I think that apprehension has to be resolved before the platform starts getting deployed. It cannot happen when you're deploying the platform. It becomes really, I would say, messy, right? You're getting dragged into wrong discussions at that point in time. So strategy started well in advance from change management perspective, understanding the user experience in how that person is using things today and how it is going to change, and trying to give them a look-alike, right? This is how it would work. And then making sure that you handhold the person or handhold the end user through the implementation phase, take their input, make it more agile, and after it is implemented, still support them in terms of any kind of challenges. I think that's a whole cycle of change management you have to adopt.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's shift our focus to the future of inter-service management, enterprise service management, and starting with AI. As you can imagine, no function, no capability within organization now is immune to AI, right? And but can you maybe paint a high-level picture about what promise does AI hold for ESM? What are the potential immediate benefits, long-term benefits for ESM, as well as what are the risks in AI adoption within ESM that organizations, business leaders should be aware of at least?
It's kind of difficult question to answer at this point in time, Saumitra, because AI has its struggle of its own when it comes to getting adopted in organizations. We have plenty of use cases built or to be addressed through AI, which move across departments and move across different teams in an organization. But what is usually a failure point is the consistency of the data on which the AI is supposed to be built. Okay, now this challenge, once we address it, it would make life easy. But I think there's a long way to go to achieve that. As I said in one of our slots or discussions earlier, was that ESM is usually, or can, it's not usually, but can very well be positioned as a stepping stone for AI deployment, because it creates a very uniform data set for AI to get built and work upon. When we foresee ESM as AI enabled, I think the primary impact happens on the services part of it. Now, when in the world of enterprise service management, we talk about a unified service desk that helps with all the departments. I think with introduction of agents and bots, this service desk experience could drastically change. It could essentially be, I mean, I've started getting calls from promoters which are totally AI, right? They're just talking to me in natural language, and they're pure AI. You can figure out, right? They're AI because the way they talk is not human. So that is going to change a lot. AI-based service desk, purely AI-based services is very much on the cards. Second thing is the bots working in tandem, the agentic piece of it, right? Where the orchestration happens through the various departments or various work pieces. That is going to be huge. That is going to be of huge benefit for ESM per se, because at the end of the day, let's say the HR life cycle, for employee to get from getting onboarded to getting deployed and to getting fulfilled their facilities, their IT needs, everything. This essentially in a conventional way would need some person to work somewhere. And even if we create a bot for each of these items, let's say one bot creates a VM for the person who's getting onboarded. One bot creates the employee ID or email ID for that person. The one bot is responsible for updating the financial system with that person, or orchestrating it in a very timely fashion, in a output-driven fashion, is something agentic is going to evolve to. But that is where a huge value would come. Reliance on people's intuition, people's way of working, human error would reduce as and when we go. The platform, or let's say enterprise service management, would utilize very much data-based, very much crisp, I would say, inputs for deciding on what needs to happen in the future. Last but not the least, the reporting, the dashboarding, it is, again, right, it is made up of 3-4 blocks only: workflow, notification, reporting, and dashboard. Right? So reporting and dashboard at the end of the day becomes easy, more insightful, more decision driven, more driving the decision. It would be more proactive in that sense. Decisions could be taken by AI and implemented at a stage. Only high stake decisions would go to the CXO and CHOs, or the people who are looking at the reports. That would ease the work of management a bit. So these typical use cases, where ESM as a platform would benefit from AI. But again, as I said, the challenge lies in data consistency today. You cannot rely, for an organization, let's say there's a healthcare organization that wants to utilize AI. It cannot go to public AI, public LLMs to create its own AI bots. There's a regulatory issue. There's an issue of accuracy. There's an issue of bias. There's a issue of ethics. AI bots can hallucinate based on what data they're getting. Now, to answer questions, to work in a particular way, that comprehensive data set of your organization would make enterprise service management, AI-based enterprise service management, more effective. And for that, obviously, streamlining the data is very much important.
Yeah. So besides AI, how do you see the future ESM as a enterprise capability evolving? What are the key other trends that you are seeing?
Okay, it's a very interesting question, Saumitra, because I mean, as I think through this, right, with the enterprise would not be built of human employees alone. We have to think it that way now, right? So enterprise would be built of AI bots. as well as humans. So huge focus of enterprise service management. Today we are onboarding a person in HR system. Tomorrow we want a AI bot to be created to do something, right? And this is purely thought based as of now, right? The way we have to think through enterprise service management is how we make sure that human and AI work in tandem. The process for onboarding AI and the process for onboarding a human are very different, but still they have to work together. Their aspirations, or let's say their motivations, would be different. Human motivation is something else. AI's motivation is something else, to work on something, right? So how as an organization, how as an enterprise, we are going to handle that? While the outputs of AI-driven systems would be very fast, very accurate, human systems would, or human-based systems would have to provide value, if not less, if not more, at least equal to what AI systems are providing. And that's where enterprise service management has to evolve. Now, when I say this evolve, what I essentially means is creating the workflows in such a manner that the human intervention creates approximately the same value as AI bot is providing in that workflow. And it's a huge challenge for process designers. I mean, AI can help in designing those processes as well, but I'm not sure how it will unfold in next few years. But the idea is, if you are designing a process with a consistent output from an enterprise service management workflow, the sections of which are being worked by AI and humans in tandem, how do you make sure that the consistency of data is maintained, consistency of motivation is maintained, right roles and responsibilities are maintained, and at the end of the day, you are able to segregate what needs to be fixed if something goes wrong. Is it the AI part or is it the human part? So enterprise service management, reporting, workflow, data, everything has to, there has to be a paradigm shift in the way we think today. It cannot be just what we think today. It has to be different.
Yeah. Okay, so as we wrap up, Rakesh, just one last question to you, more of our advice to CIOs and executive leaders, if they are embarking or accelerating their ESM journey, and given the current context, as everything we discussed today, what are the key things they should be mindful of while they're initiating these big programs?
I think the key suggestion is work on the organization change first. And it is easy for people who are coming on the ground to implement ESM. It is for your organization to make sure that whatever we are bringing is understood in terms of value it is providing by everyone. And once that happens, the journey becomes smooth. The technology stack, or I think it's manageable, right? Technology is not a challenge, I would say. Technology still can be bought, it can be sourced, it can be created, whatever you want to do in your organization. But it's adoption that's going to be challenged for it. And when I say adoption for creating that platform as well. People, if not supporting in creating that platform, your platform initiative would fall off very badly. I mean, you would have a very siloed. I mean, at the end of the day, you'll start building ESM, but you will end up being ITSM, or you'll end up being HR system, or you'll end up being financial system, which you do not want. So do not take siloed approach. Make OCM as an integrated point for, as the key theme for your ESM implementation. That's, I think, primary suggestion to CXOs who are listening to this. Another aspect which I want to suggest is that with AI, it's a huge imperative to have it in your ESM systems, but do not think of it as a output driven element. Think of it as a building block for something better in the future. Now, as I was mentioning, right, the apprehension around workflows being driven by AI and humans both, with that in mind, the right starting point is ESM. Because once you have workflow created. I mean, to make I'll give you a very small example. So something has to be work has to be divided between Saumitra and Rakesh. For that, we need to understand what the work is. ESM is that work, right? ESM creates its common work fabric for you, which can be divided into AI and humans. And if you do not do that, you would do some work with AI, you would do some work with humans, but you would still do another ESM initiative on top of them later, rather than doing it now at this moment itself. So yes, treat this initiative as a building block for something better in the future.
Yeah. On that note, Rakesh, thank you. Thanks for sharing all your insights. I think it was really a practical conversation, and it's as you said, this space is evolving very fast, right? And it's becoming the critical pillar of enterprise operations. So there are a lot of takeaways from this conversation. I'm sure the audience will get benefited. So thanks again, and it was a pleasure hosting you.
Thank you. Lovely being a part of this discussion. Always good to have a conversation with you here or in personal space. Wonderful chatting with you again. Thank you very much for having me here.
If you found this discussion valuable, please follow and subscribe to Enterprise Tech Talk. And thanks for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.